Stone, Rob, hanging with you Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing great out there. Appreciate you joining us today. All right, so I told you where I'm at with this. I would go corner first and foremost. That's draft. Certainly you could go that route in free agency as well, but I don't think they want to continue to spend crazy money. I think it's much more cost effective to try to draft a corner high, considering the money you have tied up already in Slay and what you might be paying in a dead cap hit with Bradbury. But let me ask you, Tone, what position, could be either side of the ball, what position is first for you?
This was tough because I feel like the defense has so many needs. Although, as much as I believe corner is a high priority, and I believe the fact that it's because I did a top 5. Is that what we're supposed to do, right? Top 5?
Whatever you want it, yeah.
Okay. So I kind of did it as far as the top 5. I believe all 5 of these things are of extreme importance for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do have them ranked, and I believe all these priorities are separated by a razor's edge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My number 1 position of priority is edge. I'm looking at that defensive line and how they fell off a cliff. They need more firepower there. They need more depth there. Nolan Smith obviously has to step up, of course, but when you're losing a BG, when you could be at risk of losing a Hassan Reddick, if you guys can come to an agreement in your contract negotiations. We have no idea what the contract negotiations are going to be like for a Josh Sweat, but given how his year went this year, the Eagles do have the leverage. But I don't believe they have leverage in the Hassan Reddick situation. Hassan Reddick has put up north of he's put up a minimum of 11 sacks over the past 4 seasons, respectively. In three different organizations. I believe Hassan Reddick does have a little bit of the leverage in the situation. So I think they need to prepare themselves and they need to load up on the edge. I think they definitely need to get somebody that's talented, a big body that has length, athleticism, speed. They just need a legit edge rusher on that, on that side of the ball. So I think that's number 1, especially when you lose in BG. We don't know what the future holds for him. Can Nolan Smith play? I think they need an edge rusher. Number 2, I'll give my number 2, and then I'll let you give your number 2. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
My number 2 is linebacker. I think linebacker should be a priority going into the offseason. Will it? Probably not, but it should. Jeff Kerr brought this up, and I bring it up all the time. You find a guy and you develop him, keep him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
TJ Edwards, you found him.
Agreed.
Keep him. You developed him. He's undrafted. He's not going to be that high. He's going to account for so little of your cap. And then the Kobe Dean, we have no idea what he is. And you can't keep piecemealing this thing through free agents and mercenaries. It's just not going to work. You need some foundational pieces at the position. You were idiotic enough to let Christian Ellis slip through the cracks because you mishandled or mismanaged the whole practice squad situation. I just think they need more talent there, and the guys they have currently just isn't cutting it. So what's your number 2 position?
Okay, so my number 2 is linebacker, and I know this is going to fly in the face of everything that they do, right?
Right. So for you, corner 1, linebacker 2.
Yeah, because I got to tell you, man, like I am so tired of having yes, the occasional exception in 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl, in 2017 when they went to the Super Bowl. But for the most part, having linebacker play that's either mediocre to bad. I need a linebacker who's going to make plays. In this defense, with what Vic Fangio wants to do, you have to prioritize this position to a degree. And you got to get guys who can cover a little bit. You got to get guys who can stop the run game. I just think they've taken it to the extreme, the ignoring of this position. Yeah. And it's about time they start to address it a little bit more. Whether it's, I see Lewis brings up Nigel Bradham. Jordan Hicks, unfortunately, was a good player. He just got hurt all the time here. That was too bad. Kendricks wasn't a bad player either. But they have got to get back to this. Howie, I hope, during that press conference was just sort of giving you the team spiel and sort of trying to defend his ground on that. Because you better make this a priority. And I'm telling you right now, Vic Fangio, in those meetings when he agreed, I think, to be the DC or whatever happened, or when he talked to them, previously about his philosophies, I'm sure he emphasized how important linebacker is. And I don't think they're going to ignore that. I think it's going to be more of a priority this year than we all think.
Yeah, they drafted Michael Kendricks in the second round. He ended up being a solid player for them. Obviously, he had his limitations, but he was okay. He was all right. But I still felt like we knew we could be better at that position. Bradham, they found him. He was in Buffalo, and then they brought him in 2016. So they didn't really draft him. They definitely got the best out of Bradham, especially in 2017. But you're right. I mean, we're expecting this team to go against the grain. I don't know how much I don't know how much I could bet on it, but we know it's a need. It's clearly a need. They've taken it way too far. Yes. Do you have to prioritize certain positions? Absolutely. In theory, it's common sense. You can't allocate the same amount of resources to one position as another. You can't prioritize some positions over others. It all depends how you build your team. But overall, they've taken it way too far, Rob.
Yeah.
Way too far. And in saying that, my third position of need is corner. I think corner is a high priority for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're too old at the position. Guys can't stay healthy, especially in the slot with Avonte Maddox coming off the tear. Then Darius Slay, he was nursing a knee injury all year. Finally got the surgery or the scope, whatever you want to call it, towards the end of the season. It's just you're getting old there. Health is starting to fail. Talent is clearly depleting. We don't know how good or if he's good at all in Kelee Ringo. We don't know if he can last in this league yet. We don't know if Eli Ricks can play really just yet. Every time I see him on the field, I saw them putting him in uncompromising situations. We don't know how good or bad Josh Jobe is. Again, putting those guys in uncompromising situations. The Eagles right now, I'm not seeing their ability to develop the DBs. So I think that's going to be important going into this offseason with this new coaching staff. Can you maximize the guys you have, and can you find a way to bring some guys in that you drafted that you can, that can become foundational pieces? They can't keep piecemealing this defense as a whole, Rob. Like all these mercenaries, it's just not it's not a sustainable formula.
I want depth. Like, in other words, hey, great. If Kelee Ringo blossoms into a stud or Eli Ricks does or whatever, great. I still am prioritizing the position this year in the secondary. And good, I'll be loaded. If somebody gets hurt, I got somebody who can plug in. Or maybe I can move somebody in that slot position and not have to worry about Avonte Maddox getting hurt all the time. So, to me, that doesn't change, like, where I'm at, all those things. And I'll tell you the other thing, too, just to stay in the secondary for a minute. You're not good at safety. Like, you're not good. You don't really have a starter next to Blankenship.
Well, some would argue on a Super Bowl team or on a good team, Reed Blankenship wouldn't be a starter.
Right. So, you probably in a perfect world you get two guys. But I mean, if I could get a good player lined up against with Blankenship, okay, I'll live with that. They need to help and upgrade that spot too. That's another position that Fangio leans heavily on in his defense. Safety.
Yeah.
It ain't good, man.
I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. It's so funny. I'm thinking about what Jeff Kerr said. Hey, he had running back so high.
I'm shocked. I got to tell you, I'm shocked.
And for me, running back is fourth on his list. For me, running back is fourth in priority. They need one, yeah, for sure. I think they should actually draft one this go around. At least in the first 4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should draft the running back. Running back is one of those positions that you could really find a gem. You could really find a gem easier. Mm-hmm. This go around.
That position, there's so many guys who were taken later who were really good in the league.
Right. Because teams aren't drafting them high anymore. So there's so many guys that are talented that you can find and bring into your situation.
Yeah.
And then fifth for me is safety. We briefly talked about it, right? That safety position has to improve. Reed Blankenship, if I'm being completely honest, he's not good enough right now. He's not. He has limitations.
I'll give him a little bit of leeway in that it was his first year as a starter. You may turn out to be right, but I just got to see. I want to see what next year looks like for him, and I think we'll really know what he is.
Right?
Whether he's just a special teams depth guy or he's a a legit guy.
Right. Right now, he has limitations. He struggles sticking with tight ends and man coverage. He struggles. He's a great he's a great tackler. I like him.
He'll hit you too. He'll hit you too.
I like Reed Blankenship playing closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, in the box.
In the box. When you have him, when you ask him to go back there and just roam and just be a pure free safety,
you're not playing to his strengths.
I don't think that's his strengths. He's much better when it's see ball, get ball. He can make a beeline. He's very good at tackling angles and pursuit angles. He's very good at that. But he doesn't have this. He doesn't have the long range speed.
He does
to hang around with those with tight ends now who are getting faster, more athletic, becoming more integral parts of these NFL offenses. He's just not good enough to. He doesn't have the athleticism to keep up with those kind of guys. So they definitely need pieces at safety.
Yeah,
Sidney Brown, the ACL tear, he's going to have to get back from that. He's still an intriguing prospect, but overall, I don't know what he's going to be after that injury.
Well, so 757 says, Robbie, slow short. What's to see? What's to see is you can get a lot smarter and understand angles and do things, and even if you're not necessarily a speed merchant. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not telling you he's Ronnie Lott. I'm just saying I want to see what this year looks like before I cast the guy off.
I agree, because I like Reed Blankenship, and I believe he has traits that I do like. I do think he understands the position.
Yeah.
I believe that for a fact. He understands the position. He knows where to be. He's just slow.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to utilize his skill set properly and not allow him to be a liability.
The other things, and again, these are not at the top of my list, but you have to get depth at receiver and tight end, because Tone, really, I don't think anybody after AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are going to be on the roster. Who are your other receivers? I think Julio Jones is gone. I think Quez Watkins is gone. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is gone. Who am I missing?
Well, Greg Ward is already gone. They don't have any wide receivers. Okay.
Covey's technically a wide receiver. We know what Covey is. He's a punt returner. So I think whoever, you have to upgrade probably two of your backup receivers. You have to upgrade tight end behind Goddard, because Goddard can't stay healthy, and those guys aren't good enough.
Yeah, as of right now, this is what their receiver position looks like.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Who are you keeping there? I'm not keeping one of those guys.
Right, except for Brent Covey and
Covey sticks around to play special teams. I'm saying nobody else as a receiver. They're all, and that's not even showing everybody. That's not even taking into account Julio Jones.
Oh no, this is 2024. This is
24.
This is who they're going in. Like, this is who they have right now on the books.
None of them.
Only guys I see here that will be on the roster is AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Brent Covey. And Brent Covey only has a spot because he returns very well. So you can make an argument they only have two wide receivers.
Correct. I agree. And so go to tight end. Just scroll down a touch. Okay. Stoll's restricted, so we don't see him there. The only I'm good if Calcaterra is gone. I don't even know who EJ Jenkins is.
Well, Calcaterra, he's on a rookie deal, so he's not going anywhere. He's on a rookie deal.
Yeah, but
they need more people there. I agree.
I need somebody real there at that spot. So both positions are lacking, to say the least.
Look, I've taken some time, Rob, to really go through this roster, right? Yeah. Going into the 2024 offseason. I really think people are underestimating how many pieces this team needs right now. When I heard people say, hey, they're about a couple moves away from being back. Yo, they need depth. They need a defense. They have some decisions to make, Philadelphia. And when you go through this roster, player by player, you're going to see that. And it's going to become more clear to you that the Eagles are further away from the promised land than what we may think.
Yeah. Look, man, this is, again, we are in Howie season mode where he has got to be
a superstar,
a big game hunter, and get it right.
This offseason is huge for him. This is a huge offseason. If
he doesn't have a killer offseason, they're going to struggle to make the playoffs or be as a 7 or something like that. That's what they're going to be if he struggles. in this offseason.
Right, because the schedule, if the schedule, in my opinion, just based I looked at it prior to the playoffs, and now my opinion's kind of shifted. You know what I mean? Like the Packers.
But here's Dan says 5. Here's where I'm not going to go 5.
Oh yeah. Sills, he's been driving at home for like.
But here's where I'm not. Why I'm not there. If we're assuming, and he probably doesn't assume this, but I'm going to assume that Hurts gets better, okay, or gets closer to what he was in 2022. You still have a stud offensive line. You still have 2,000-yard receivers. I think they'll get a running back that'll be fine. That'll be good enough. You're going to put points up. I would hope that your offense isn't going to be a train wreck that it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not 5. It's hard to almost be a 5-win team. You got to really suck to be a 5-win team. I mean, all right.
Yeah, I'm not buying 5-win quite yet either. Do I think they're at risk of being on the back end of things? Do I think they're at risk of making some really bad decisions and putting themselves in the hole? I do believe that.
I agree with that.
But as of right now, they're not trending in the best direction.
Like here's your 5-win teams from the NFL last year. The Chargers, who couldn't have been more of a disaster. The Patriots, who couldn't score on you and I, Tone. The Cardinals, the Washington, and the Panthers. That's it. I mean, the Giants had 6 wins, right? The Falcons had 7 wins. The Bears had 7 wins. The Titans had 6 wins. The stinking Jets had 7 wins. They're not a 5-win team, but you get the message. We don't care if you just sneak into the playoffs and get bounced in the first round. That's meaningless. You have to get this back to being a Super Bowl contender.
Right. And that's and I think that, because that's what I'm thinking about, right? Yeah. I'm not thinking about, oh, can this team make I'm thinking about what do they have to do to get back to Super Bowl contention. And they got some heavy lifting to do before they even be considered those conversations again. You know what I mean? Forget winning the division, forget the playoff berth, forget the 5-win team thing, right? All those things are all plausible outcomes. How far is this team from winning a Super Bowl? If I, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the furthest, 1 being, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the closest and 1 being the furthest from a Super Bowl, I think the Philadelphia Eagles team is hanging around 4 or 5.
Yeah, I would go 6, 7. I would go. I have more.
And look, I feel like I'm being optimistic. I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I think maybe I'm looking at the work they have to do in a little bit more of a crucial light. Like I guess, okay, what makes you comfortable to say 6 or 7? And again, people, if you're listening,
well, okay, so the reason I just laid out with the offense, right? For starters, and typically the Eagles' history with Howie shows that there's a bounce back after a bad year. And I know 11 wins isn't 4 wins. So when I say bad year, you guys know what I mean. But they typically bounce back after having a disappointing season.
That is true.
So I'm going to bank on that history with him a little bit here. You do have a decent amount of draft picks. You don't quite have the same cap space as you had last year.
As of right now, they have 9 draft picks. That includes the comp picks right now.
Which is good. Yeah, which is good.
Do you think they need more? I think they need more.
You can only use so many of them, though. I think you could use them to trade. Use them to trade and get up is what I would do with them if I acquired more. Yeah. I also think, too, I think you're cutting out a lot of fat. You're going to be getting rid of a lot of dead weight from last season. And just the subtraction of that is a big deal. And that goes for the players and that goes for a coaching staff. I mean, let's face it. We don't talk about him much, but man, did anybody get less out of his position group than Tracy Rocker?
Yeah, that was disappointing. I expected a lot more from from Tracy and that group as a whole. I felt like it was a combination of those guys not doing their jobs as well. I feel like Jordan Davis didn't do enough work in the offseason to put his body in position, for the long haul of the year. Obviously, Jalen Carter, the rookie Wall, okay, he gets a pass to an extent because he was so dominant. Milton Williams, I feel like Milton Williams had a solid year. But I really think it was the edge. It was the edge they didn't get enough from. The edge.
I agree.
Because let's really
last 7 games. Where were Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick?
Listen, I think when it comes to the D tackle position, if your D tackle is getting 5 sacks, 6 sacks, that's a blessing. D tackles aren't really high sack total guys. So they got 5 sacks out of Fletch, 6.5, I think, out of Jalen Carter. I think the deficiency came in where you weren't getting that from Sweat. Hassan fell off on the back end of the year because they started misusing him. So, do I think Tracy Rocker has something to answer for when it comes to that team? Sure. I'm not knocking that at all. Because in year one, I had some issues, but then he bounced back in 2022, and then 2023, we are where we are. Right. So do I think Tracy Rocker definitely wears some of why the D-line didn't perform? Yes. But I think I put most of it on just effort.
I think, and I will say this, Tone, just to pick up on your point. Yeah. I think we blame the coaches far too often when the players don't show up.
Yes.
In general, this is in any sport.
Because it's low-hanging fruit. That's why it's low-hanging fruit.
I agree.
And fans, they don't buy coaches gear; they buy player gear. You know what I mean? Right. Jerseys and whatnot. So
players often can't be fired.
Right.
Coaches can.
Fans are likely going to always defend the player. But players, they play. You know what I mean? Coaches can only do but so much to put you in position. So I think a large part of why the Philadelphia Eagles fell off is player accountability. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. Again, do these coaches have something to answer for? Sure, I'm not denying that at all. I've been jabbing at these guys all off season, even during the season. But these players have to wear a lot of it too. And I just want to make sure we get that across here because those guys, they're in the in the weight rooms. They're supposed to execute these plays and play at a high level and be high effort. This team was a shell of itself and they still won 11 games. They got to find a way to get back on track. And they need to reinstill a strong foundation from a personnel standpoint. They need depth. They need rotation. I think the one thing that was lacking on the defensive line is they didn't have a strong rotation.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand why they traded or cut Kentavious Street. I didn't get that. You moved on from Derek Barnett with no immediate replacement. Did you think Nolan Smith was going to fill that gap? Okay, but you didn't put him in position until the end of the year when you got desperate. You should have been grooming Nolan Smith for that spot from week one. But no, you had Derek Barnett out there. You knew you wasn't going to keep him. So there was just a series of miscues in how they handled this roster from a personnel standpoint, from a playing time standpoint. We can go on and on. But overall, when I look at this team from top to bottom, when I go through the cap, when I go through the money and all that kind of stuff, they got a lot of work to do, and Howard's going to have to make some tough decisions.
I want this coaching staff more than anything else to play to the players that you have's strengths. Not, hey, I do this, you're going to have to do. No, you have to adapt what you do as best you can to what these guys do best. So, all right, let's get a quickie in here, and we'll come back and we'll dive into more NFL discussion. There's a lot of stuff going on in terms of coaches. What do you hear the ticket prices, Tone, already? And we're still how many days away? 10 days, 11 days from the Super Bowl. Man. The prices are insane already. So we'll get into that when we come back. A bunch of other stuff too. You won't believe this. All right. So that's Tone. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take. Let's talk about Flynn Tree Services. Flynn Tree Services is an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted tree off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face, and they are experts trimming all types of trees, and they serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. You go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flyntreeservices.com. That's Flynn Tree Services.